Low test. All right.
You're killing me.
Start over. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kelly Brewer Show. We are proud and glad, and we've got a little new setup, and I've got a new guest today. His name is Mark Stirling. Maybe some of you guys know him from high school. I just remember a freaking brilliant athlete. Mike Rhodes, he was talking about you. I told him you were coming. And he said y'all had an art class together.
We did.
He said you were
An art,
really
and
good.
he made a career out of it.
He did. He sure
Great.
did.
He's great at it.
He is good. So let me read a little bit about Mark. Mark is a father. He's also an author of 3 novels, which are available on Amazon, and that's Mark Stirling, Stirling.
Right.
Okay. Mark has seen his share of adversity, as has most of us, but I think he has overcome it with grace. So let's dive right in, my friend.
All right.
Thanks for being here. Just start at the beginning, I suppose, what happened, and how did you overcome?
Well, started at Lamar University right out of high school. 2 years to the day after I began university, I had a stroke at home. Just out of nowhere, no family history, no reason for it to happen, just struck me down, paralyzed my dominant side, and off to the hospital we went.
Well, that was how long ago? What
That
year?
was 1984, a long time ago.
Dude, that's 80, 90, what's it, 30 years?
40.
40,
Yeah.
Holy moly. Well, here you are, man.
Yeah.
Still doing good. Got books out.
God is good is all I can tell you.
God is good. That's a good way to say it.
So I had finished my sophomore year. I was an accounting major,
Okay.
which was advice from my dad.
Yeah.
Because we had no idea what we wanted to do when we were 18, right? Started school with a number of my friends I graduated with. We were all accounting majors.
Really?
Yes. And after the first or second accounting class, I knew wasn't going to be what I did.
Yeah.
Didn't really feel cut out for that. But I had no idea what I was going to do until this event started to move me in a different, diametrically opposed position, and I started a new journey. I was in rehabilitation inpatient for 90 days right after the stroke in Houston, because in Beaumont they couldn't even tell me what had happened.
Oh my gosh.
This was a long time ago, and we
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of rehab around here.
Right.
So we went to Houston and started getting some therapy that I desperately needed. I was starting to get some return in my left hip, but my left arm was totally paralyzed, and the leg wasn't moving much. It was just starting to contract once in a while.
Yeah.
And so we began what they call aggressive therapy, and it was 3 times a day, occupational therapy, physical therapy, the whole gamut.
Dang.
And when you're 20, you don't want to be there long.
No doubt.
And 90 days was an eternity for me,
Right,
because
I bet.
I was used to being up and going and
Man,
riding
you
bikes
were-
and playing
my
ball,
gosh.
and I was in a bed, and I couldn't move, and nobody could tell me really why. I was in shape, I ran every day.
Yeah,
Matter of
yeah.
fact, I ran the morning. I had the stroke. I ran 1.5 miles that morning, and I was on the telephone around noon with a girl I was dating at the time, and boom, it's like lightning.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What happened to her?
She actually played a pivotal role in getting help there.
Wow.
Because I was making so much noise trying to get back up. I couldn't get on my feet, and I
Yeah.
was knocking things off the dresser.
Right.
It was back when we had real phones, in the extension. I was in my parents' room.
Right.
And she thought someone was breaking in the house.
Oh, no.
So she disconnected and called the cops, thank God,
Yeah.
because they showed up, and consequently called an ambulance, and, things went the right way from there.
Good.
But had she not done that, I don't know how long I'd have been there.
Right.
Eventually, my neighbors, they saw the ambulance and came, but that was, a little too late.
Right.
So, fortunately, that was the way that transpired to get me in the right place to start getting, help. But the process, fortunately, since you and I are both athletes, you know how much work goes into that. If you want to be good at your game or at your craft or whatever you do in life, you got to work at it. I was used to being diligent. I mean, I lived in the gym when I played basketball. During the summers, off season didn't matter. I wanted to be the best I could be. Same thing with baseball. You stay on the diamond.
Right.
So the work part of this I loved it. I felt like I was back in the game, because they were challenging me, and a lot of days there was just nothing there. I couldn't. You lose the connection between your brain and the muscles when you have a brain injury. And the part of the brain that did that prior is dead and never regenerates. So you have to recruit another part of your brain to make that work. And I know it's kind of abstract for
I've
most
heard
people,
that before.
but it's a weird process to go through. I mean,
The brain
because you can't you can say move leg, until you're blue in the face. And when it doesn't move, you say, okay, that didn't work. What else can we do? And it's repetition upon thousands of repetition.
Wow.
Finally you start making neural transmissions that connect, and you start getting some return.
Your brain kind of rewires.
You have to teach a part of your brain to do what the dead part did. And it's pretty complicated.
Pretty amazing.
It's learning everything in reverse almost. Because you can't just say, okay, let's walk. Well, there's a million minutiae in muscle movements, contractions, and relaxation. It goes into making a gait pattern, right? So you have to work on each portion of that, for your leg, for your arm, for your torso, for your trunk muscles. And the therapists I had were great, and they're trained to know all this and how to make you understand what you're doing, and push you when you don't want to be pushed. And there was a lot of that because, I'm 20. I'm straddling boyhood and manhood, trying to figure out what to do. And you got to grow up pretty quick,
Right.
So, I did everything they asked me to do, and I worked diligently. I didn't really want to be there, and I had bad days, like anyone does, doing anything. But for the most part, I worked really hard, and I had really great help, and I had family support. I had 4 church congregations praying for me on a regular basis, which to me was foundational. It was,
really?
Oh my God, yes.
You could sense that?
You could feel it. It's
Really?
almost palpable.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's my faith grew so much in that first couple of years. It was I was raised in church, but I wasn't fanatical or anything like that. But after this happened, it was much more apparent to me that I wasn't in charge of my life. I was being molded to do what I was, my purpose.
Right.
I don't think anybody is born knowing their purpose in
Correct.
life. I wasn't anyway, and it became more and more apparent to me that it was being revealed to me in small doses during that particular year as I was trying to get back on my feet. And actually got back on my feet while I was in Houston during the 90-day stay. I was not sturdy, but I came there in a wheelchair, and I left. They gave me a cane. As soon as I got home, the cane went in the closet. And so I just got busy and stayed really. And I did 2 years of outpatient after that, a couple times a week, just to get stronger and stronger, stationary bikes, treadmill, that kind of stuff,
What else were you doing during that time?
What else was I
Were
doing?
you still going to school? Or
Trying? Or? No, I couldn't. I had no idea what I'd be capable of intellectually. I didn't know how that was going to affect me, how my memory was going to work. So I was scared to death to go back to school.
Really?
Yeah. I did all 2 years post-therapy before I felt even comfortable walking across the campus. Because, I still had a little bit of a limp. My arm carried my arm really funny. I don't know if you've seen people that have had strokes, but it tends to draw on you. And that's very difficult to get that tone out of your arm and make it swing naturally. And, when you're that young and you've been in a little bit of limelight, even though it was just, minor, then you don't want to look funny. You don't want to carry yourself, like something no one recognizes.
No matter what age you're at,
Well, I guess that's true. But, you're used to being perceived a certain way, and you perceive yourself a certain way, and maybe those don't jive, but you know what people see when they see you and what they think of when they hear your name.
Right.
So you don't want to look all, spastic looking, and that I was very concerned about that.
Right.
So consequently, I tried to hide it.
Right.
You know, you put my hand behind my back. You know, I try to walk faster so people can't notice. To this day, I walk really fast, just because I conditioned myself.
You were fast. I remember you on the diamond, man. Just I was just in shock, really, at how nimble. You know. And I thought, man, this guy's a competitor.
I was blessed with some quickness. I really was. My dad was quick when he was young.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was pretty fast on my feet, and that may be part of it. But a lot of this was I was trying to hide the idiosyncrasies in my gait pattern because it wasn't exactly, heel strike was not perfect.
Right.
You know, and I had what they call foot drop, and what happens to your foot when it's paralyzed is the ankle can't support it at the right angle, so it drops down straight. And
What's straight? The foot?
Your foot from your ankle, instead of being like this,
Yeah.
it goes like this, straight down.
Wow.
And so you can't pull it back up
Yeah.
and clear when you step.
I
And
got
so I had to wear an orthotic for a while to try, it's kind of like an ankle brace,
Right.
which helped.
Yeah.
But it never got perfect. I mean, and I don't really have to think about clearing anymore because I've been on my feet a long time now.
Yeah.
But it's still not quite like my right foot. And so there's a slight deviation.
40 years still working
well,
on it.
you know, it never goes away.
Right.
Your muscles get this neurological tone in them, which makes them stiffer than they were before, and very difficult to stretch. My hamstrings are still like piano wires. I mean, it's just really, really tight.
Yeah.
And so if you're not on a regimen of stretching, it makes your stride a little shorter.
Yeah.
And so I've had to work on that a lot.
So 2 years in, then you went back to
I
work?
went back to Lamar. I did go back. I finally got enough. You know, I felt like I was moving well enough, and I was working out as much as I could. The hard part about getting back into a regular workout routine is your strong side, which was my non-dominant, became so strong because I was doing everything one-handed.
Yeah.
That it tries to take over everything you do. If you're lifting reciprocal weights, then you're not getting anything out of this side because it's boom, 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 boom. It takes over, and your brain just wants to get it done.
Right.
You know, so that was I had to find ways of isolating my weaker areas to try to get them to a point to where I could at least get through school and find some type of employment.
What did you do in school? What did you pick up?
I decided to change my major. Since I couldn't play ball anymore, I thought, well, I'll teach and I'll coach. So I got an education degree. However, it didn't quite go that way. We had an economy when I got out of Lamar that was similar to the one we have now, kind of down,
sluggish,
and very difficult to find.
Who was president? 80.
Gosh, dog, that was this. It took me a while to get out. I had to start over since I changed my major. I mean, I had some basics that I could carry, but essentially I started over in '86. So I got out in '91. It took me a while. And the reason it took me so long is because I was scared to death to take too many hours. I didn't know if I could do it.
Right.
I was unsure of what I had to take notes with the wrong hand. I had to try to remember with the brain that I wasn't sure it could work.
Get to the classes.
So I took like 2 or 3 classes at a time, and so I strung it out on purpose.
But you gradually got through it.
I did get through it, and
tried to find a job.
Well, and then that was where things turned again because I was determined to get a teaching position where I could coach basketball. Because I love the game and I never wanted to quit. My feet got taken out from under me,
Right.
So there weren't any teaching jobs that I had certification in at the time, and so it got to the point where I looked and looked and looked. Now I went pretty far into North Texas. I mean, I was just trying to find something.
Right.
Didn't have to be here. I couldn't find anything. So I got to the point where I had to have a job because I was getting serious about the girl I ended up marrying, and matter of fact, we went ahead and got married after I think I got a job at Dillard's, maybe some retail, I believe it was, and I did a couple of those jobs for a little while I was trying to find a real job, just to try to get a little money going because I was going to be married really soon and trying to get things started with a family. So it took
Julie, right?
That's right. Yeah, her name in school was Julie Lewis.
Yeah. She was a sweetie, at least to me.
And she is the mother of my daughter,
right.
who is everything to me. She's great. She's had her share of troubles as well, medically, but that's another story. I
Couldn't find a job.
couldn't find a job. I found department store jobs, and I worked at Dillard's and Walmart.
Couldn't find a job in your major.
Couldn't get in my field at all. So a job comes up at St. Elizabeth Hospital in the rehab department. Had no idea. It was just a hit,
Yeah.
you know. And I got an interview, and they were interested in me just based on a talk, you know. But after I went back for a second interview, we walked around the facility. This is on the 6th floor of the hospital. I'm sure you've been up there before. And it's still a rehab unit today, all these years later. The person that was interviewing me noticed my arm and asked me about my gait and what had happened. And I didn't want to get into it. I was trying to hide it at that time.
Yeah.
I wanted to be as normal as I possibly
Right,
could.
right.
But he was in the field.
Right.
And so he knew something
He
had
knew.
happened, and he started to have concerns about whether I could physically, because you have to transfer patients, from
Right.
wheelchairs to beds,
Right.
or from the restroom out into the chair, and you got to be able to move them. And he didn't think that I was going to be able to do that. Well, I had a little bit of an advantage because my uncle was in the corporate medical field. He worked for the company that owned all the Catholic hospitals in Houston and Beaumont and the whole area. And so he made a call to the sister. Back then, the nuns were still running the
Really?
hospital. Yeah, and he made a call to the sister that was running that hospital at the time and asked if she could just meet with me and get a second opinion, because I had been working my tail off trying to at least get what I had strong. And my right arm was a rock then. I mean, I had to be, because I wasn't going to stop doing the things that made me feel like I was alive.
Right.
Just because this one wasn't participating anymore. So I figured out you can figure out ways to do just about anything
Right.
if you're determined enough.
I see that.
And so I mean, I was killing it, doing all kinds of dumbbells and
Really?
yeah, oh yeah. And
You worked your ass off.
I've never worked that hard in my life,
Wow.
Kelly, and I've done a lot of hard work. But so I met with this wonderful woman who was very compassionate, of course.
Nun?
Yeah, and we met long enough to where she understood where I was coming from, and I tried to demonstrate to her that I could transfer a patient. It's not about strength; it's about leverage.
Right.
And and I learned that pretty quickly.
Actually, it was an orderly for a while at Baptist
Really?
Hospital.
Well, then you don't have to be a power lifter to move someone if you get the right amount of leverage. And so I knew that I was going to have to do this. So I started practicing on people that are my
Really?
friends. Yeah. I had to use every card in the deck, dude.
How did you approach? Hey, let me pick
Well,
you up.
that's exactly right.
Really?
I got my little brother. I said, "Sit here. I'm going to move you from here to
Well,
here."
Scotty will do it.
And I was just trying to brainstorm, trying to
Anything.
figure out a way to get in.
Right.
I needed a job bad.
Right. Gotcha.
Wives aren't crazy about guys that don't have a job.
No, that's true.
So, and I proved to her I could do it.
Right.
In that second interview, and so she suggested that they take me in, and they did.
Wow.
And it wasn't too long before I was out working everybody that had been there for years and years,
Yeah.
all the other
Wow.
assistants, and I loved it. I mean, it was like running track. I was pushing wheelchairs all over that place, and I really did. I loved it. I was fortunate enough to work with some really smart therapists that gave me a lot of latitude, that
Yeah.
let me do things that I wasn't really supposed to do. That was kind of their part of their thing,
Right.
but they trusted me, and it didn't take me long to get in the groove in the medical field, which is something that never was on my radar.
Year?
Yeah.
What year roughly?
This was 91.
91.
I got it. Yeah. Well, it might have been early 92. I got out of Lamar in 91.
Okay.
And we got married in 92, so it had to have been early.
It's about the time I got married.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's how our wives sort of
Yeah,
met
they knew
up
each other.
and-
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. But, yeah. So from there, And I've been in the same field now for, let's see,
Since 92.
yeah, so 31 years,
Yeah.
something like that.
So you've met a lot of people
Cool.
that have gone through probably worse than you.
The biggest blessing in my life, Kelly, is the fact that I have been afforded the opportunity to counsel. And I'm not a counselor, but because I have an insight into stroke and head injury that very few doctors do. They can tell you the textbook. They can tell you what to take medically, medicine, what therapeutics you might need, and they can forecast and prognosticate until the moon turns blue. But they don't know what it feels like. They don't know what it does to you emotionally.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they don't know how you go from one day being seen as an artist or an athlete, and the next day you're not. It's gone.
Gone.
Erased. And it's hard to process, especially when it's that quick from one day to the next.
Right.
It's like I knew that, and it didn't take me long to see people's faces, even people that I knew, because I had a lot of people come see me in the hospital. But I was in the bed, and they knew I wasn't going to be, tap dancing for them. So, and so they were, friendly and nice, and didn't act like anything was different. But, especially the guys I played ball with, they looked at me like, "Oh my God, what happened here?"
What now? Yeah.
Because this happened to me. My original point, which I got away from, I'm sorry. Once I got into this field and established a little bit, and people started to know my story a little bit, they trusted me with visiting with families that had family members that had a stroke and were struggling to understand what they were going through. Sometimes, I didn't have a stroke where it affected my speech, but a lot of times people do, depending on where the interruption in your brain is.
So you're counseling families as well.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And it's such a blessing because they have so many questions that I can answer.
Right.
I don't have to look it up. Even though I've got a little damage, it's in there. And I was able to get really pretty good at explaining to people that what he's feeling is perfectly normal. I went through this. I know what it feels like. It's terribly frustrating, but it's going to get better. And this happened dozens and dozens of times, and it's the most rewarding thing that I've ever been a part of. Yeah, super, super, super. I mean,
almost like it was supposed to happen. I don't want to say.
Well, I'll tell you what. I struggled this a long time. As I told you, I tried to hide, the consequences of what happened to me for years and years and years. Now I embrace it. I've got a few little quirks that don't quite look like you doing the same exact maneuver, but I don't care. It's who I am now. And I really believe that this struggle was put in front of me so that I could hurdle it and I could show others that it's not the end of the road.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Dude, that's huge.
Well, it has been. It has been huge. It makes me kind of emotional, and so sorry about that.
No.
It
makes me emotional.
Well, is there anything more important? That's why we're here, to help each other, right?
That's
to
right.
Love each other.
That's exactly right.
And so many people get so far away from that because they're worried about making the dollar, which is great, I barely get ahead in this field. I mean, the monetary gain, it's really not there. They don't put that into this field. I mean, the therapists do well. The people the support staff, which is what my degree is really exercise physiology. But I've had several jobs that were called exercise science or exercise specialist or exercise physiologist. Most of my job now, I'm a technician. So I go get patients. I do the treatments that the therapist doesn't really want to fool with. The basic stuff, the exercise on the mat, all that kind of stuff. I do gait training. I've done that for a long time. And so my job title hasn't really mattered to me much. It's the interaction with the people and can I help them?
Wow.
Can I relate to them? And more times than not, I can,
Right.
And when you're in this field, you realize that it doesn't matter where these people come from. Everybody ends up with some type of debilitation along the road, whether you're super old or, like me, kind of young, And so you learn to talk to people from all walks of life, blue collar, white collar, doesn't matter. When you're in a clinical setting, you're a patient, and I'm a caregiver. I'm going to help you. So it has I never,
You're still
had-
kind of a coach then.
Well, that I guess so. Yeah, sometimes because you got to be able to motivate people because they don't
Right.
want to do this.
That's right.
Sometimes it hurts.
It hurts. They're dejected. They can't see the way out.
Right.
Probably.
And fortunate for me, I've been down nearly the entire road. I mean, I'm not at the end yet, fortunately, but I've gotten to a point to where, I supported a family, and my daughter's doing fine, by the way. And I support myself and have for a long time, and I haven't needed any help. I could have never worked a day in my life. They offered me, immediately to get on the government dime.
Really?
Well, sure. Yeah, I'm legitimately,
Yeah.
I have a disability, even though I couldn't get it now
Right.
because I've worked too long.
Really,
I've proven
yeah.
that. Well, I've proven that I can work.
Yeah.
So no, then I'm
Oh,
gonna.
wow.
Yeah, I don't want it. I
No,
never
I know.
wanted it. I wanted to work. I was raised to. That's what you do.
Right.
You get up, you go to work, you support your family, and you do everything that's
Wow.
required
I never even
of
thought
you.
of that. So yeah, you could have just laid
Yeah,
down.
I never had to work a day in my life. And I ran a program for a while when I worked for Health South Rehab in Beaumont, the work hardening program, which is a return to work program where guys get hurt on the job and they come in, get their rehab, and then they go back to work. What I found was there's so much dishonesty in that process where so many guys claim they get hurt. They don't really get. I had guys be very honest with me and said, I didn't really hurt my back. I'm just trying to get a check.
What?
And I'm sitting here thinking, I just went through years of rehab, and I'm working as hard as matter of fact, I'm overworking. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. My whole career, I've worked with people a lot younger than me, most times, and a lot more athletic and healthy and strong and all that. And and I had to keep up, so I had to work, twice as hard because almost everything I do is with the one arm or the one leg, and I've learned to, get myself in positions where I can get things done, regardless of what it is. We used to have to do these tests for ambulance drivers. We did physical tests for them so that we could see that they were capable of doing their job. And we had a 220-pound dummy in our gym that they had to drag. Well, I had to drag it back.
Did you?
Yeah. And I learned how to do it. I could get my hip under it and get a really good grip on it. And I didn't go fast, but,
Right.
And I'm not a big guy to start with. So,
Right.
But you figure it out.
What do you weigh?
140.
You're bitty. But your mama, But that's, I think, what made you such an athlete was, your center of gravity is a little closer to the ground.
Yeah, a lot closer.
I'm tall, and so I'm a little top heavy, so my balance wasn't
Yeah.
so good. But I just remember I could see it. I saw it. I think you were you playing second base?
I played second a lot.
Second base.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember watching you run out one time, and I'm going, dude, that dude has got it, man. He is a freaking, like a gazelle, running out there.
I love to run, man.
No doubt.
I miss it like you wouldn't believe. I'll tell you, I was able to run one time. Post-stroke, only because I told people I was going to do it. The doctors in the hospital, not long after I was in the hospital, my parents had questioned, how is this going to impact his life? What's he going to be able to do? Of course, they didn't know, but they always got an answer because they're a doctor.
Right.
I love doctors, don't get me wrong, but they're doctors,
Right.
not God. Sorry. So they said, well, don't get your hopes up about walking again. And that's all I had to hear.
Yeah.
That's a challenge, right? And so, I decided right when I heard that, not only was I going to walk, my birthday's in November. They're telling me this in May. I said, I'm going to run by my birthday. And so I got it in my head that even if it wasn't very far or very pretty, I was going to make some tracks.
Yeah.
So what I did was my brother and I had a little hash mark spray painted on the side of our road where we used to run sprints, 40-yard dash, had it marked off.
Place.
So I get out there, and I'm gonna I don't know if it's my brother or one of his friends. I wanted him to time me just to see how far I was from what I ran in school.
Right.
And I didn't really want to know, but I needed a barometer,
Right.
you know, and I really wanted to see if I could just do the run. And so I get down at the start, and I could see and they were at the other end, of course. And my brother's got a clock, which was a bad idea to start with. so I took off, and it wasn't really a takeoff; it was more of a lean into.
Yeah.
Because I really wasn't sure if I could do it. I hadn't really tried it. I mean, I hadn't even tried jogging or anything. But I was hell bent, you know. So I had to try it.
Right.
So I took off, and I got going a little bit, kind of loping, you know, kind of shifting my weight. It felt pretty good, you know. I was pushing harder off my right than I was my left, but I was moving, you know, and I wasn't going in a circle. So I got going pretty good, you know. And then I started to think, oh my God, I don't know how to stop. And nobody thinks about stopping because you got to chop your steps down to stop, right? I get going, and I'm right in front of my parents' house, and there's the deep grass ditch, right? Fortunately, it wasn't wet. And the only way I knew out of this was to dive in the ditch. So I made it to the 4-yard line, and I did not know how to stop. And my brain just couldn't wrap myself around it.
That's wild.
And I had done that my entire life without even thinking about it, you know. So I dove in the ditch, rolled a few times. I was fine, you know. But it was kind of embarrassing.
But you ran.
I ran, yeah, only for 40 yards, but
That's all
yeah,
right.
I ran, and I knew that I could. That was what I needed,
Right.
for me, you know.
Prove the doctors wrong.
Yeah, well, absolutely, yeah. So
I guess they, I listen to, hear it all the time. They say, oh, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be worse.
mhm.
It's probably maybe in their minds, maybe an insurance.
Sure, it's in their best interest
To say the negative.
to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, because if they give you hope and then it doesn't happen, then
They're wrong.
wow.
Yeah, you can come after them, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I probably would have said the same thing had I
never
been
thought
in their
of that.
position.
No, I know that, but
you
it
know.
just occurred to me.
But yeah,
you saying
it's not
that.
something you want to hear, you know.
Yeesh. Or maybe they know that secretly they're messing with your mind and
Well,
challenging you.
maybe
knows?
so. I don't know that they knew me
Who
well
knows?
enough to know that, but
I
that's
don't know.
possible, you know.
Who knows?
It worked because it ignited a flame in me, you know.
Ignited flame. And so one of the things that you've done is you've written books,
Mhm.
and the books, describe that a little bit. How did
Well,
that come about?
I'm not exactly sure because before that, I've always had a creative streak, similar to yourself, not the same exactly, but I always drew. I was good at drawing and painting,
That's what Mike said.
and yeah, Mike and I were in the same art class in school, and that was a blast. He ended up doing a little better than me, but I was really good at detailed drawings. I could replicate just about anything if I looked at it long enough. I could draw it, and so I lost that. I could do it right-handed, but it takes forever.
Right.
Because I'm detail oriented when it comes to that, and I don't want it to look half baked.
Right.
You know. So I tried. I did a few drawings for my parents. It came out kind of nice, but it was so laborious. You know, I really
Didn't enjoy
I
it.
need to shift gears,
Yeah.
and that's when I started writing and using my creative juices to do that. And I figured, I've always been told, write what you know about. And what I know about is running the high hurdles for your whole life. I mean, adversity and getting around it or over it or through it is something that I know something about.
Yeah.
And everybody goes through something.
Right.
I tell people almost every day when they're feeling downtrodden, all you got to do is look around a little bit and find somebody fighting a tougher battle than you're fighting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially when I work in a nursing home now.
Oh,
All I have to do is
gosh.
walk down one of our halls,
Right.
and talk to one person usually, and my day's better already because I'm not doing too bad.
Right.
So I thought it would be a good resource for people to see my story and some of the obstacles that I've faced.
What's the
in
first
this.
book called?
The first book was a kid's book, and it's called The Courage of Mosey Keeter. It's about a family of mosquitoes. It's for little ones.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. And then the second one, I guess, is more
The
autobiographical.
second one is actually the second one I wrote for my daughter. It's about bullying.
Bullies.
Bullying, yeah. She faced a lot of bullying in
Yeah.
school, and she inspired me to write that. So It's a fictional story about a group of kids who have a tough time with the group from the other side of the tracks, and
Gotcha.
just don't like them just because they don't like them.
Right.
And so it's a way of handling it without.
What's that one called?
It's called Low Places in the Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about handling bullies without getting violent. And it's kind of a brain thing.
I see.
Yeah.
Then the third one, what's
The
that
third
called?
one was the last one. It was last year. It's called No Talent for Surrender. That's about this year we're discussing now in my life.
I got you.
Yeah. It's also got a fictional element that's got some mystery and family secret type stuff
Yeah.
and deceit, which makes it a little more interesting
Right.
than mine.
But it's a fiction story, but loosely based on.
Yeah, the part about my illness, it's all detailed and it's all right and correct and true.
But more in a fictional.
It's
sort of-
it's in a setting to where they could never tell me why I had the stroke. Not to this day.
this
I don't
day.
really. I kind of know. I think it was from concussions I got in basketball.
Really.
Oh yeah, I hit the floor a lot. A lot. Yeah, big guys don't like you going in the middle when you can jump.
Yeah.
They'll leg sweep you in a heartbeat.
Oh, wow.
So I hit the floor a lot of times without breaking my fall.
Wow.
And I'm almost convinced that was an old blood clot
I
that
got
got loose, you know.
No, shit.
But they could never pinpoint it, and so I gave a plausible reason and another storyline
I see,
to
yeah.
tie it all
I
together.
got
Yeah, came out pretty nice. I'm proud of it.
you. Okay, no, your eyes did not go bad on you. You did not have a stroke. We just changed the lighting just to see how that was going to happen. Okay, ooh, all right.
They're all listed on Amazon. And you have to spell my name right, or you will never find it.
No, that's right, because it's different than
Yeah.
normal.
Yes, we're not with the silver people.
Right.
We spell it different.
You remind me of your dad so much. You really do. That's something your dad would say.
Well, maybe.
But,
Kind of getting too far from the tree, you
no
know.
doubt. But I love your mom and I love your dad. Your dad has helped me. He's a really smart guy, and I've
Mhm.
asked him, had to stop and ask him a lot of questions about not so much work, but I know he's into politics and
Mhm.
stuff. So I
Sure.
learned from that.
Really, that's
And
good to
then,
hear.
Your mom is just the sweetest creature. She is so sweet that she's like sugar almost. So I always like to stop by just to see her face.
Oh, they love to see you.
Ooh, she would light up.
They tell me every time you come by.
Well, you got some good.
Oh,
you
they're
got
the
some
best.
Good folks.
They're the best.
Now, Scotty, what happened to him?
Scott's still around.
Is
He
he?
worked in construction for a long time. He hurt his shoulder really bad.
Where's he
Fell
at?
off a roof.
Ouch.
He's only a couple miles down the road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know where Grace Baptist Church is?
Yeah.
Right off of 105.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
right across the street.
Oh, okay.
In the neighborhood back there.
Yeah, I know where
Been
that
there a
is.
long time.
Yeah.
He's doing all right.
Well, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
he helped us back in the day
Mm-hmm.
get some of our stuff done. So, well, okay. So if you could summarize what is there a phrase? Is there a sentence? Is there an acronym? Is there a good old boy, is there a way to say that you could distill it down to one concept? How did you overcome? There was a single way to describe it.
I'll just say, and then there's a million ways you could answer that.
Right.
First of all, I would quote Mark Twain and say, "There's no such thing as an ordinary life," and he was so right.
Yeah.
And mine has been unconventional at best.
Yeah.
But I titled my last book what I titled it because it's sort of my running theme,
Say it
and that
again.
is no talent for surrender.
No talent
you
for
cannot,
surrender.
you must not
That sums
surrender.
it up right there.
No matter the roadblock, no matter the speed bump, no matter how far out of the way you got to go to get to where you're going, don't give up on it.
Wow.
Power through.
Wow.
You got to believe in yourself. I don't preach, but my faith has driven me so many miles without direction.
With your eyes closed,
Yeah,
somehow you
yeah,
stayed
I mean,
between the ditches.
Honestly, I don't know how I've gotten through everything. I couldn't have gotten through everything had it been just me.
Right. Well, you would have been miserable,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
now you have a modicum of joy.
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
You
I'm
found the
happy
silver
every day,
lining.
man. I don't know why.
No, you're always
You know,
smiling.
I mean, you have to, Kelly. You know, you have to. If you can't, then you're gonna. I mean,
Just crumble up.
there's no
and-
point in living life if you're not happy about something. And
Right.
so many people, it seems, especially now, there's so
A lot
much
of
negativity and
yeah.
pessimism. I can't abide it. I just can't.
Yeah.
I'll break it up and I'll walk in the middle of people that are doing that and say, stop. You know, we're here for a short time.
Right.
And it's shorter and shorter, you know,
Right,
every
right.
day. So, yeah, it's much later than it seems,
Wow.
you know.
Well, that's very encouraging, Mr. Mark.
Well, I hope so.
It is, and that's really it's a great. Actually, this is one of the best interviews because you started you were in such a dark place, but immediately you began to battle, and here you are 40 years later
Yeah.
on top of it.
Well, we're still surviving.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're thriving, but we're surviving.
yeah,
And you know, I look forward to going to work, even though I'm probably going to retire in another year.
really.
Yeah, I'm just getting so tired.
Tired.
You know,
Yeah.
I
What are
mean,
you? We're 60 now, I guess.
yeah, I'll be 61 in November. Yeah, and then the following November, I'm going to try to get out of the game.
Really.
Not that I really, and I don't dread going to work because I meet wonderful people almost every day, and I get attached to these people, particularly if they're in the home for any length of time.
Yeah.
And I love that. I've always loved that part of my job.
Do you have some kind of retirement or just Social Security? Or?
Yeah, it's going to be minimal, but I'm used to minimal,
Yeah.
you know, so I'll be fine.
Men,
and plus,
men can operate.
yeah,
on that.
and I'm going to do some care on the side. I've been doing former patients, you know, at their home or in my home for
Oh,
a
okay.
long time. You
Wow.
know, stretching, massage, you know, exercise,
Make a
whatever.
couple bucks doing that.
Yeah, and that'll,
it's
that'll
not
be enough
full-time.
to make up until I get on Medicare. You
I
know, I'll have
gotcha.
to have private insurance for a couple of years, but, you know, that's okay.
Wow.
It'll be fine. I'm not worried a bit. But I got to give this old body a little rest.
I got you.
You know, I've been tugging and pushing for a long time.
Long time.
But
Me too.
it's been worth it.
is worth
Every
it.
bit of it, you know.
Well, that's good, man. That's good. I'm glad you were able to take such a thing and turn it into such a positive.
It's the only way I know how to act.
But that's what it is you were that before.
Well, I
That's
guess
who
you,
you
I
were
guess you
before.
have to be yourself, right? Regardless of what's thrown at you.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to react how you're going to react.
Right.
Fortunately, I was raised what I call right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that's probably not politically correct, but I don't care. And I've had encouragement and to the point to where I propel myself in the direction that I need to be going, you know. And not everything's, you know, butterflies and roses, but you know, you put your best face on, you make the best out of every situation. And if you can give some of this to someone else and their life is that much better, then I feel like I've done my job.
Done your job.
You know,
That's right.
and
Keep them from going down. Try to pull them.
yeah,
pull 'em
just a little. And you'd be surprised what a word of encouragement can do
up. Yeah.
for someone that's been, for instance, at my job. You know, what I mean, our aides are super busy, so they can't always get to people in a real quick amount of time. You know, and I have people. It's not really my job to enter call lights because that's a nursing thing, and I'm in therapy, and they like to make sure there's a division there.
Yeah.
But I don't because they're people,
Right.
and I care about them.
Right.
And if something I can do and it's simple, like they drop the remote control or they need some water, then I'm going to do that. You know, I'm going to stop and I check every room before I leave the home
Really?
every day. And it's not my
Really?
job, but I do. Yeah, I mean somebody could be on the floor and not be able to reach their call light. And if somebody's not just walking by, well, they're going to stay on the floor,
That's
right?
true.
I can't stand that. You know, no, that's not the way it goes.
Well, that's a true heart, man.
Well, you know, good stock is all I can say.
Raised you right. No, that's good. No, that's really good. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap, man. I think we got.
Sure have enjoyed visiting with you, buddy.
I really appreciate you coming. I think we got the
Absolutely.
nugget of it right there.
I hope so. It's been a
So,
lot of fun.
Appreciate y'all watching Kelly Brewer Show. We will catch you the next time. Later.